What's up, everybody? Welcome to Own the Chaos. My name is Brad. The stock market is crazy and chaotic, and I made it my mission to help you guys own it. And boy, are we feeling the markets today. It is not a great day at all on the heels of what happened with First Republic. If you guys didn't catch the stream yesterday, we had talked about it, before earnings came out. I was like, listen, this is something that I would really encourage people being careful with and not going nuts on. Yeah, I know that there's a potential short squeeze opportunity, what have you, but the volatility and the uncertainty here certainly has me scared. And sure enough, it's bringing the rest of the market down. So we'll look at that in a little bit. But man, we have a huge day today. We're going to see earnings reactions from Microsoft, from Google, Enphase, Visa, Chipotle also reporting here this afternoon, among many other ones that, of course, I can bring up. But man, what a big day. And this could certainly be a game changer as far as the market's concerned. Before we get into anything else, though, I want to give a shout out to my starting five: Kevin Hawthorne, Bodie Beer, GMC Boom, Ivan Broski, and Michael. You guys are my starting five. If you missed the starting five, it could be because you didn't hit that notification bell and get here early. So make sure you're doing that. Join up in the chat nice and early, and you might get shouted out in the next stream. Okay, so looking at the overall market right now, the S&P 500 is down nearly 1.5%. It's down 1.4 or 58 points. The Dow's down 1%. Or 311. NASDAQ, the biggest move down here so far on the indexes. Well, that's not true. The Russell's also down more than the NASDAQ, but still, NASDAQ's down 1.8 or 217 points. Russell's down 220 as far as percentages are concerned. Crude oil closed down today 2% as well at $77 a barrel, so it is just red across the board, except for Bitcoin, which was down most of the day and now is up right now around 187 points. So really not a major move there, but still sitting around 27,557. So some really interesting moves today, but this isn't a surprise, right? We talked about this yesterday as well. I said the stock market, the S&P 500 could use a pullback. Now, I wasn't expecting a drastic pullback like today, but nevertheless, a pullback is what we're getting. This actually is healthy. I'm not mad at this. I think this is just fine. Here's your weekly chart on the S&P 500, brought to you by Don's Zones. If you guys want to check that out, you can go ahead and click on the link in the description below over at patreon.com/ownthechaos. These are custom zones that Don has laid out that marks support and resistance. It makes it really nice and easy for you to see those areas. And if we zoom out a little bit, you can kind of see that right now on this weekly candle, the S&P 500 is, if it closed today, if today was Friday and we were coming into the close, it would have closed below that zone, which, increases the likelihood that a retest of this next zone down could be likely. So 40.56 would definitely be on the table. I think that for a healthy pullback to take place, I would like to see the S&P 500 come down to 4,000 and hold there. And if we see a bounce, then I'm going to feel even better about it, which means that we could potentially have lower to go. Now, all that could change if by some chance the earnings today come out and they just knock it out of the park. The consensus is that's probably not going to happen, but we will see. Nevertheless, we made mention yesterday of a lot of scenarios or a lot of areas of concern, particularly with Microsoft and Azure. Microsoft had already come out and said that Azure was slowing down. That's the cloud computing side of their business, and the fastest growing side of their business up until, the AI boom, right? And it's still the fastest and most important side of their business. But that's something that we're going to have to pay attention to. Let's go ahead and take a look at Microsoft's chart here. This one, obviously a huge move down today too. I think this is in danger of going lower as well. I mean, it's had a monster move over the last, essentially since the beginning of the year. And that's what I actually mentioned too at the beginning of the year. Microsoft was one of my kind of hot stocks to watch, even though it is Microsoft, of course. But it was one of those things that I would say was lagging other tech stocks in the beginning of the year. It's since caught up. It's now, I would say, expensive. It's at 30 times next year's earnings. And so that's going to be something to watch out for. Now, again, they're going to be reporting earnings here at the close. So let's make sure that we're keeping an eye on this. The one interesting point of news was that Microsoft is said to plan to close the Activision deal despite the FTC lawsuit. So maybe we could hear something from Microsoft on that. But estimated earnings per share for Microsoft. Ready for this? Here we go. So $2.23 is what expected. $51.01 billion in revenue. Zero upward revisions for Microsoft. Now, what I will say is that that's something that I think could be more of a contrarian indicator, right? If everybody's expecting Microsoft to shit the bed, maybe they come in and it's bad, but it's not as bad as what everybody was expecting. We've seen moves like that before, right? So that's going to be something to certainly keep an eye out for on Microsoft. Alphabet, aka Google, also reporting earnings today, and that's going to be one that we are certainly going to be watching for. What are some things that we're expecting to hear from Google? Well, obviously the ad spend or the advertising side of their business is what's going to be most important here. They're expected to come in at $1.07 and $68 billion in revenue. That if they just come in at that only means that they're growing about 1.2%, which would be similar to last quarter. So not really all that interesting either. Now they are trading on the cheaper side compared to some of the larger tech stocks that are around 20 times next year's earnings, but not really cheap by any stretch of the imagination. YouTube advertising fell nearly 8% year over year in the fourth quarter when they reported last time around, and Google network ads fell even more by 9%. So we need to hear some sort of improvement from Alphabet on that side of things, and I can attest to one of those things, which that the advertising side for YouTube has been brutal. If you guys look at, for those of you who know anything about YouTubers and creators, we make our money. Some of our money gets made off of YouTube ads. We split that revenue, but they're not paying right now. The ad revenue or the ad spend that I normally get paid per 1,000 views is far lower than what it used to be, even before the pandemic. Before the pandemic, my CPM was much higher than what it is now. So it's I would venture to say it's the lowest I've ever seen it. I'd have to go back and check, but I think it's the lowest I've ever seen it. They also cut or plan to cut 12,000 workers, and that's going to have to be some sort of impact. Can they use that to their advantage to spin, a better outlook for the company? I don't know. I think that's also going to be something that has to be discussed. Also, the AI side of things. How are they improving on Bard? Remember the absolute, oh shoot. Looks like Don's getting in on the charts here. Hopefully that's not going to be a problem. We'll keep an eye on that. But Alphabet certainly, of course, is going to be something to watch. The Bard situation was an absolute mess. Can they clean it up? We'll hear from them on their earnings report. That's going to be something that we really need to watch. And then, as I'd mentioned before, my favorite stock in the entire market right now is ENPH or Enphase Energy. Not really off to a great start this year. They're red so far this year. Over the last 52 weeks, though, they're up 40%. So this correction here makes sense. But nevertheless, they are growing like crazy. And so I think that they should have a really good earnings report. I'm looking forward to seeing what they have to say. If you guys are curious about Enphase and their growth story, it's absolutely amazing. They're growing at 60% year over year. Over the last 5 years, the stock's gone up 5,000%. Let that sink in. Year to date, though, they're down 13%. So that's something to consider. They are trading at 40 times next year's earnings. So by and large, that's expensive, but it makes sense to pay a premium on a company that is growing at 70% year over year. And I would make the argument that that's actually not all that expensive on a company that's growing that fast. Profitability wise, forget about it. 43% profitability as far as their gross profit margins concerned. Europe in particular is where they are growing the most because of what's been going on with, obviously the Russia situation and trying to decrease their dependency on Russian oil. So that, to me, I think it's going to be one of the highlights that we're going to have to look forward to for Enphase. Next, we'll have Visa that's going to be reporting as well. And we'll take a look at that chart here. Again, this is the weekly chart. I just wanted everybody to kind of get a snapshot of what's been going on over the last quarter. Visa is on fire as far as a stock's concerned. Near all-time highs. It's still going. One of the narratives that's being spun, obviously, has been these high credit balances, right? at the same time, the rate of inflation isn't any more important, or no less important, I should say, since Visa's service processing and transaction revenues depend heavily on changes in the consumer price index. So the more that stays the same, um, inflation could. I would say inflation doesn't really impact them in that way. Now, of course, with the balances going up, this could impact them if by some chance we see some sort of recession and people just stop paying their credit card bills. What I will say to that, my rebuttal to that, is that we're still seeing a really nice tight labor market, and that everybody's got jobs right now. So everybody should be able to afford paying their credit card bills. But whether or not that remains to be true, of course, we'll have to see. And of course, we'll see what they have to say. But there's been some pretty decent growth here for Visa, economic growth wise. I think that they're going to be fine. I've talked to you guys ad nauseum about what the consumer's been doing lately. I think, in my opinion, when they're looking at spending money on more services and travel and stuff like that, it seems as if the consumer's still quite strong. They're just not buying stuff, and they're still using Visa to do that. So they'll have earnings today. Estimated earnings per share for Visa. Sorry, I felt like I was a little all over the place there. I hope I came across clear on that one. But estimated earnings per share, $1.99, $7.79 billion in revenue. Most of the street is like in this one, 16 upper revisions to 7 down. And so then finally we'll have Chipotle. They're also reporting. These are going to be your heavy hitters. Of course, we can cover some of the other ones. But Chipotle is going to be reporting here after hours. And you can see that this stock's also been doing quite well. And last time around, their earnings weren't all that great, but they have recovered quite nicely. So I think that this was from their last earnings, but since then they've done really well. Let me put that back. Since then they've done really well, and I'm actually kind of scratching my head on this one. McDonald's came in and actually had a good quarter. They are seeing McDonald's this morning reported earnings. They are seeing some pushback on some of the higher prices. So perhaps we could hear some more of the same from Chipotle. Year to date, the stock's up 30%. Can you believe that? Over the last 52 weeks, the stock is up 18%. So still just an amazing performer. So we're going to have to hear what they have to say as far as inflation's concerned. Are they still able to keep up with that with their higher prices? Are they having the same type of pushback as McDonald's is on higher costs on food? Revenue growth year over year is at 14%, which is damn good for a restaurant company like this. Valuation here, of course, is a little bit expensive. Trading at let me pull that back up. Trading at around 42, 43 times next year's earnings. But with a company that's growing the way that they are, maybe some of you can justify paying that kind of premium. I think it's a little bit high, but gross profit margins are at 40%. This is by far just way outperforms any of the other companies in this space. So with the exception of maybe Wingstop. So from a fundamental standpoint, that's something that I think will be certainly interesting to watch. So those are your heavy hitters, and we got about a minute and a half before earnings. So super pumped for this. I put in the poll here this afternoon, today's earnings will, and you guys are pretty split on this. Today's earnings will send the market lower. 43% of you out of 81 so far say that that the market's going to go lower after today's earnings. 38% say the market's going to go higher, and 19% of you say that it's going to stay the same, that we're not going to really see much of a reaction to this. But looking at so far, I got 166 of you guys hanging in, so make sure you hit that thumbs up. I certainly would appreciate it. There's only 21 likes. I feel like we can do better than that. So hit that thumbs up if you're appreciating the stream so far as we get into earnings. Now, I did see one thing, not stock related, okay? Before we get into the close, I just wanted to react to Vinay, one of my regulars here within our Chaos crew, which you can go join at patreon.com/ownthechaos, was asking me about the draft. The draft's going to be on Thursday. Asking me about who I think is going to be drafted this year, the top 3. My top three are going to be Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, and Will Anderson Jr. is who I got. And then he also asked who I thought the Ravens should draft. I think it's going to be Zay Flowers. I hope it's going to be Zay Flowers. Let's put it that way. A wide receiver. The guy's a stud. If they don't draft a wide receiver, the Ravens did this last year and caught everybody off guard. I've been calling this for a while. They got Odell Beckham Jr., and they're still on the table for DeAndre Hopkins. Could there be some sort of trade, sneaky trade that happens in the first round that the Ravens give up a first rounder for DeAndre Hopkins? I think that's very much on the table. And I've been talking about this for a while amongst my friends, and they're going to laugh if they're watching this because I've been talking about it and they thought I was crazy. I don't think it's off the table. So we get D-Hop and we have Odell on both either side. Oh my gosh. How's Lamar Jackson not sign on the dotted line immediately? But those are my thoughts. Anyways, so I'm going to have to put some people in timeout here. Arslan, just stop spamming about. If you can't stop about Bitcoin, we're going to have to put you in timeout. Anyways, let's go ahead and take a look at some of the charts here. I'm going to pull them up in just a second once I get it all situated. First thing I'm going to look at is Microsoft. We'll get it to the 5-minute chart so you can kind of see how things are moving in real time. Now that the markets are officially closed, it is now 4:01, and Microsoft is already on the move. Let's take a look at this real quick. I mean, wow, what a strong move for Microsoft already. It's up 3.63%. Let me share my screen with you. There we go. So huge move on that for Microsoft. Let's see what's happening. Those earnings must be out now as it continues to move. Lots of people worried about this. Remember I said, not one upward revision for Microsoft going into the close today. And that was according to Seeking Alpha, not one. And I mentioned that can oftentimes be a contrarian move. Even if they come in with not so great earnings, but it's better than what people were expecting. Nevertheless, earnings came in at $2.45, smashing expectations of $2.22. Revenue came in at $52.9 billion versus the $51 that was expected. So blew expectations away. This is what I'm talking about, right? Like the huge move here and everybody being bearish on it just makes sense. You got to zig when everybody's zagging. So those are your preliminary numbers. We're going to dig into this a little bit more, but Microsoft came in and smashed earnings at $2.45 versus the $2.22 that was expected. Revenue came in at $52.9 billion versus the $51 that was expected. And that's according to Market Rebellion. Pretty credible source. And I'm just cross-referencing here, and it seems to be general consensus. So they smashed it. Unbelievable move here, and the stock's still climbing. What a boner candle for Microsoft. It's now up 4.2%. Man, huge move on this. Checking out some of the comments here. Some people asking about ChatGPT being a huge impact here. And we didn't talk too much about this, but I just talked about AI in general. I think that, yes, ChatGPT probably had a lot to do with this, and that could continue to carry up Microsoft. Once I get a few more comments on this report, I'll certainly share that with you. But I want to check in on some of the other stocks that could be moving here as well. Let's check in on Alphabet. I use the ticker symbol GOOGL. That stock is now up 3.5% after it looks like an original move down. But this is your big ass green boner candle right now. That's up 4%. What a move, man. This is awesome. Everybody just all doom and gloom on tech, and now they're coming in and smashing earnings. Let's see what they have here. So Alphabet came in at $1.17, 9 cents better than what was expected. So they were expected to come in at around $1.08. They came in at $1.17 on earnings. Revenue for the quarter came in at $69.8 billion versus a consensus of $68.887. So about $1 billion better than expectations on Alphabet. Of course, advertising side, we have to hear what they have to say on that, and the AI side, what are they going to say on that as well? Looking to see any more details. Of course, I'll come back to Microsoft and Alphabet on those, but those are your preliminary numbers. I wanted to kind of just get those out of the way, and we can take a look at some of the other stocks that might be moving. I want to check in on Enphase, see if there's movement there. That stock's actually down. That's down 4.76%, and not good. That's a bit surprising, especially considering the growth expectations on Enphase. So there's your move down, now coming out of that zone. Let's go ahead and see what's going on with Enphase. So let me pull up those numbers here for you real quick. And again, we'll come back to Microsoft and Alphabet once more details come out. But man, that's a really tough move down for Enphase. Let's see what those numbers might be. Not seeing anything just yet. All right. Yeah, big tech is screaming right now. Let's see here. See if I can get some numbers off of Enphase. Enphase is continuing to move down around 5% here. So it looks like they came in quarterly revenue of $726 million, and they were expected to come in on revenue. So 726 was the actual. They were expected to come in at 722. So they beat on revenue. Let's see what else we got here. 45% for non-GAAP gross margin. They shipped 4.8 million microinverters and approximately 1,900 megawatts. Woo! GAAP gross margin, 45%. That's as I'd mentioned. Looking at earnings per share, looks like diluted earnings per share $1.02. The expectation there was $1.22. So they missed on earnings per share, beat on revenue. It looks like, if I'm reading this right. Non-GAAP diluted earnings per share $1.37. Actually, I think that's a beat. Normalized estimate, yeah. $1.22 is expected. So they give me $1.37. So they beat on earnings per share. They beat on revenue. Why is the stock down? Sorry for that misstep, but it looks like they beat on earnings all the way around. Could be guidance related. I mean, moved off the chart here. It's down now at around 10%. We'll come back and see what the heck's going on there. Lots of you guys, Enphase can't catch a break, says Dana. Yeah, no kidding. No kidding on that. Checking in on some of the comments you guys have. Let's see here. Looks like tomorrow the VIX is going to go back up. I don't know about that. Joel said, hey, what's up, Joel? Hi from Reno. Don't want no trouble, but what happens when we put a viewer on timeout? They can't talk. If I put you in timeout, you can't talk for 5 minutes. And then if you come back and still acting a fool, then you out. It's 2 strikes and you're out here. About 321 of you guys watching. If you wouldn't mind hitting that thumbs up if you're enjoying the stream so far, I certainly would appreciate it. We do have other stocks that we're going to be reacting to. We already reacted to Google and Microsoft and Enphase. Looking at Chipotle here, not really too much movement, so those earnings may not be out. So let's go ahead and just revisit Microsoft and see where we're at. Microsoft came in and smashed earnings expectations, by the way. Absolutely crushed them, and still looking pretty good here. Still looking pretty good. Let's go ahead. I'll reiterate what those numbers actually are and see what else they had to say during that report. If you guys didn't catch those numbers, they came in and really killed it. And then also they are going to move forward with the Activision merger despite the FTC lawsuit. The FTC is starting to become a bit of a joke, if I'm honest. We'll see if the FTC actually can do anything. I doubt that they will. But here's your numbers. $52.9 billion in revenue versus the $51 billion that was expected. So nearly $2 billion beat on revenue. They came in at $2.45 on earnings per share. The expectation there was $2.22. So absolutely smashed earnings expectations. I really want to try to see what I can find on, just looking through the news here. Everything I'm seeing so far is just the Activision news. So I'm really trying to sift through here and get the full report so I can get you guys the numbers outside of the numbers. If that makes sense. Let's see here. But I mean, they smashed it. By the way, put it in the comments. Did you buy tech before the market closed? Let me know. Did you buy any of these tech stocks before the market closed? You guys up big on this or what? Let me know in the comments. Would love to hear from you guys if you guys scored a big win today. Or maybe you've just been holding on to Microsoft forever and this is just more icing on the cake for you. Let me know. Rohit is big on Microsoft. Don Fran from the Don Fran Show got Microsoft before the close. See some people bought Google. Let's ice that cake, says just shoe. Bless you. All right, let's see what else we got here. So Microsoft crushed earnings. Operating income of $22.4 billion and net income of $18.3 billion, representing year-over-year growth of 7%, 10%, and 9% respectively. Wow. That's some insane growth for Microsoft, and it's still crushing it. Ralph Woodward says, icing on the cake for me. Nicely done, sir. Yashu says, Microsoft's a stock you want to keep for a long time and retire from it. I couldn't agree with you more. I couldn't agree with you. Everybody wants to hold on to Apple, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that either. I love Apple, and I always tell people, like, just hang on to that one too. But Microsoft, I would argue, is the better performer, at least over the last 20 years it has been. And not enough people talk about it. Don from the Don Fran Show can tell you that he does the same thing, right? Like, it's just he knows it's good. He just doesn't look at it enough. And he's said that before, and as well as myself. But man, what a move for Microsoft. Alphabet also came in and beat on earnings and still looking pretty good here too. That's up around 4%, crushing it right now. Looks like Chipotle may have come out with earnings, and they are up 3%. Oh man, what a move in after hours trading for all of these companies. Just wow. I mean, Enphase is the only one that's kind of a bit of a letdown, but man, what a afternoon so far. So one of the numbers I'm seeing here right now for Chipotle, that's what you're looking at on your screen right now. They still see fiscal year new restaurants, 255 to 285. The estimate was 273, so pretty good there. And it looks like they came in at $10.50 per share. The expectation was $8.89. Revenue came in at $2.4 billion versus $2.33, smashing earnings expectations there too. I mean, just wow. Holy shit. Operating margin 15.5% versus the 14% that was expected. So now they're increasing their profit margins even more. If you guys recall, before we heard these earnings, their profit margins were, growth there was around 14.4%, and now it's at 15%. So still just growing unbelievably for a restaurant. Like, I know Chipotle is good, but damn, that's real good. And as far as we continue the conversation on profitability, EBITDA margin was around 17%. EBIT margin 13.68. Now that's 15. I mean, that's amazing numbers. Thanks for the love, Ralph. If you guys are loving the stream so far, again, hit that thumbs up. I certainly would appreciate it. Hit that subscribe button. I react to earnings every day of the week, as long as there's earnings to react to, as sometimes it gets real slow during non-peak time for earnings. But if you guys are visiting the channel for the first time, I encourage you to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. I go live at 3:45 p.m. Eastern time every day to react to these earnings. And I would say, I know that I'm biased, that I'm the best channel there is when it comes to reacting to earnings and giving you that information ASAP, fast and accurate. So, I mean, I'm talking better than even CNBC. So hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and show me some love too. If you guys wouldn't mind helping support the channel, go check out my Patreon. Also, I have merch that I'm selling as well. Anything that you guys can do to help out the channel, I certainly would appreciate it. Anybody who's in the Chaos crew can attest to that. Ralph, I'm sure, can attest to that too. But yeah. Yes, thank you, Fulcrum. The extended hours has been on since the start of the stream. I don't know why you keep saying that, but I appreciate you trying to help out regardless. So Chipotle comes in, smashes earnings. And the only one we haven't reacted to yet is Visa. So let's take a look, see if Visa has any movement. Yes. So Visa's up around 1.5%. Let's see what those earnings might have come in at. Meta's moving to, says K. Yeah, it's probably just as kind of like a sympathy to Alphabet. Probably Alphabet more so than Microsoft. So Visa did come in with their earnings. Adjusted earnings per share, $2.09. The expectation was $1.99. Nobody should be surprised by this. Earnings per share, $2.03 versus $1.70. Looks like year over year. So that's for guidance. That's really good numbers. Net revenue, $8.0 billion versus the $779 that was expected. Cross-border volumes at constant currency plus 24%. That's an improvement. Total Visa processed transactions, $50.1 billion. The estimate there was 49.78. So far exceeding expectations on Visa as well. Really, the only laggard today was, unfortunately, my favorite stock in the stock market. Of course it is, which is Enphase. But Visa is up 2% as a result. I mean, this is going to hit all-time highs, I believe. Pretty crazy moves. Microsoft, let's check back in with that. They came in and smashed expectations on earnings per share, revenue, guidance, all of it's good. That stock's up 4%. Alphabet also came in with some really good earnings and hasn't really given back any of their gains at all in after-hours trading. That's up nearly 4% as well. Enphase came in and they beat earnings. Let's go check back. They beat earnings and revenue, trying to figure out why the stock's down now 16%. My goodness. I mean, I don't know what it is. Let's go find out. So they came in and beat earnings per share. They also beat revenue by a lot. I'm not quite sure what's going on with Enphase here. It's still selling off big time. Trying to figure out what that problem is. So $726 million in revenue is what they came in. They beat expectations there. GAAP gross margin of 45%, non-GAAP gross margin of 45.7%. Those are all decent numbers, and it's still selling off. There's got to be something else in here. Rev guidance is the problem. It usually is. Johan, I'm just trying to see what the guidance actually is. Trying to find that here. Guidance always sends stocks down or up. I mean, it's still selling off. Let's see here. Let's see what we got. I have the guidance numbers, but I don't have what the expectation was on guidance. I just want to see. Oh, here we go. They see Q2 revenue at 700 to 750. Oh, that's a big miss. So here's the expectations. $772.96 million was the expectation for guidance in the current quarter that we're in. That's Q2. Enphase came in and said that 700 to 750 was their expectation. So that is a huge miss on guidance. That's why the stock's down. Anybody get the feeling that they're just lowballing here? I mean, they came in and smashed expectations on the quarter that they're reporting on revenue and by earnings per share. So they came in at $1.37. The expectation there was $1.20. Expectations for revenue was $7.26. They came in at $7.32, so handily beating that expectation. And then they come in and project light this quarter. 700 to 750 on revenue, and the expectation was 772 for guidance. That seems like a low ball to me. Zoldra says sandbagging. Yep, agrees. Uncultured Currency says probably been overvalued for a while. Let it go back to 120s. I'll buy. Yeah, and I mentioned this at the beginning of the show. You know, the valuation's at 40 times next year's earnings. But for a company that's growing as fast as they are, really not that crazy to see a valuation at 40 times. But now, yeah, it's way more attractive. Is this a dip buying opportunity for Enphase? I think that's going to be the big question. My knee-jerk reaction, of course, is going to be yes. This is your weekly chart without those numbers in there. So right now, Enphase real time is living in this blue zone here. If it can't hold up above that, then yeah, I would agree 100% with you on culture currency. That 120 is certainly on the table. So I would say give it some time for Enphase to digest a lot of these numbers. It would surprise me if Enphase just moved right on back up tomorrow. So I think the more likely scenario is that we actually see more moves down in the days to come for Enphase. So I think you got some time to buy the dip on this, but yeah, I definitely think it's going to be a dip buying event, especially if they are sandbagging, right? Especially if they're being super conservative on their guidance. This seems like a really good opportunity, in my opinion, to buy some Enphase because the growth is it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. 45% on EBITDA. That's insane. Well worth paying a premium for, in my opinion. So those are your numbers for Enphase. Checking back in with Microsoft. Some pretty decent moves. We'll go back to the 5-minute here. So there's your 5-minute chart on Microsoft. We'll zoom in on this a little bit. Giving back some of those gains, but not really a big deal. They came in and crushed earnings per share, 245 versus 222. They came in and beat revenue by about $2 billion as well. And Microsoft is just, doing Microsoft things. Uncultured Currency says, I don't track Enphase, but I know it's profitable. It's actually one of the very few profitable renewable energy companies out there. And speaking of profitability, I mean, gross profit margin on this is at 42%. And they just got done telling you it's around 45 now. And growth is ridiculous at 70% year-over-year growth on revenue. So, yeah, the growth story certainly warrants and constitutes paying a premium. And now it just got cheaper. So I think Enphase is going to be just fine. Checking in on Microsoft, though, still looking great. As I'd mentioned, they came in 245 versus 222 on earnings per share. 52.86 billion versus 51 that was expected. So nearly a $2 billion beat on revenue. Here's a breakdown on some things. So Intelligent Cloud, 22.1 billion versus 21.9. So pretty solid beat there on their Azure side on expectations. More personal computing, 13.3 versus 12.3 that was expected. So people are out there buying computers still. Really great numbers. Really great numbers for Microsoft. And looks like it still might go up. Really great stuff. Check back in with Alphabet, and they came in and beat earnings per share as well. There's GOOG. I prefer to take a look at GOOGL just because it seems as if that's the one that's got more volume on it. So there's GOOGL. That is Alphabet. That's up 4% on an earnings beat too. And they did extremely well. I mean, I don't want to say I'm surprised because this was my expectation going into these earnings that tech was going to come out better than what everybody was expecting from the street, but it's exceeding my expectations as well. I mean, Google came in at $1.17 versus $1.06 that was expected. Our revenue came in at $58 billion versus $56.9, so over $1 billion better than expectations there. And revenue's up 3% year over year. For a company like Google, that's really good. Operating margin of 25%. That's down slightly from a year ago. Not really a surprise when you take into account a lot of things such as inflation, what have you. Search revenue of $40.3 billion. Lots of people thought that was going to be down. That's actually up 1.7%. YouTube revenue of $6.7 billion. That is down. That's not surprising to me. I told you guys at the top of the show that not really too much of a surprise there. They're going to repurchase an additional $70 billion of its Class A and Class C shares. And man, what a great earnings report for them. CEO of Google earned $226 million last year. Unbelievable. it just makes you laugh. Like, that is just such a stupid number. $226 million. as the CEO of Alphabet. I mean, that's crazy. Everybody negative on Microsoft today. Big red flag. That's what I was saying, Michael. Absolutely. Everybody being, not one upward revision according to the Seeking Alpha on Microsoft. And to me, that was just like the telltale sign. Everybody negative on Microsoft. That's fine. We can go long now. You know what I mean? Acidane says Alphabet will lose market shares to ChatGPT. It'll go down. I don't know, man. I know that Microsoft's making some waves and they're doing really good things, especially with ChatGPT. And I want to agree with you, but Alphabet's going to figure this out. They got too much money at stake. And now stock's starting to go back up. It's now up 4.5%. Bard is a stupid ass name for AI. ChatGPT isn't exactly a sexy name either, but Bard's just stupid. In my opinion, if they can figure out how to market their AI a little bit better, then I think they'll be fine. But they got big brains over there at Alphabet too. I'm not going to count them out. Let's put it that way. I'm not going to sit here and tell you for sure that Alphabet's going to lose market share to Microsoft over AI. I don't. They're not going to go down without a fight. That's for damn sure. After these earnings, expect at least 2 more rate hikes from the Fed, says George Nakas. Nakas. Is it Nakas? I don't think so. I don't think so at all. I think that we see 1 more rate hike, just like everybody else is saying, and that's going to be it. And if that happens, then that's great. That'll be great for the market. Everybody knows what the expectations are. It gives clarity, and I think it'll be fine. I think, as I'd mentioned before, my expectations on the S&P 500 being up between 15 and 20% by the end of the year will stay intact. If the Fed chooses not to raise rates after this next rate hike, which we'll hear about next week, then I think that we'll be fine. I don't think that there's going to be anything to worry about, especially if the economy slows down to a point to where they are expecting, and it seems as if that's happening. Don from the Don Front Show says, if you don't like Enphase but want solar, go get TAN. That's a ticker symbol TAN. It's a solar ETF with EMPH in it. Yeah, that's a good one to check out too. Jeff Punica, what's up, my man? TAN looks like it's moved down with Enphase because of the heavy weighted Enphase in this ETF. But yeah, TAN's a good one too. If you don't just want one particular ticker symbol. Checking back in on EMPH, see if it's recovered any of those losses so far. Not really, not by much. It was down 16%, now only down around 14%, but still struggling here. Visa came in, beat earnings per share, still climbing here, now up 2%. That looks great. Chipotle also smashed earnings, and that looks fantastic. It's up 5 1/3%. Alphabet, as mentioned, also did well on earnings, and that is now up nearly 5%, still climbing here after hours. Microsoft also did extremely well, up for almost 5% too, 4.5%. I mean, just really great stuff here. Hit that thumbs up, guys, if you wouldn't mind. I certainly would appreciate it if you're enjoying the stream. Joel says 2 giants reported well. Nobody cares. They would have missed. If they would have missed, the market would have gone down 20%. I don't know about 20%, but if they would have missed, yeah, it would have been a rough day in the market. But just all the doom and gloom that we've heard from the overall market and the pundits and the analysts and what have you over the last several days and weeks just kind of set it up for a huge move here. So not really all that surprising. Again, if you're enjoying the stream so far, I certainly would appreciate it. If we get that up over 100 likes today, I certainly would appreciate it. Don's saying to pull up the NASDAQ. So I'll pull up the Qs here. Yeah, huge move on the Qs too. The NASDAQ 100 is up 0.75%. It was down, nearly 2% today, but that's going to go up, I think, tomorrow as well, if this continues. Let's see. If we just pull up, here's a NASDAQ. NASDAQ futures really kind of came down to the bottom of this zone. This is one of Don's zones, and had a hell of a bounce. So if you guys want access to these custom-made charts, go check us out over at patreon.com/ownthechaos. The links are in the description. It starts at $5. You get access to this for $5 a month. Really no risk to you, but it helps support us, helps support our efforts in continuing to create content, continuing to go live, giving you this great coverage on earnings. If you guys want access to this, again, go check it out over at ownthechaos.com. We give you plenty of other stuff, exclusive content, Discords, trade alerts, everything. But if you're just looking for this, then that's there too. So certainly would appreciate you guys helping us out in that way, help support the channel. And, you know, if you're enjoying these earnings reactions, then help us out in that way. It's going to help us continue to keep this rolling. So certainly would appreciate it. But yeah, that's your NASDAQ move. Really great earnings. I mean, and they all kind of came out at the same time. I always love that. You know, I always love when earnings come out at the same time because I'm just like running around like a chicken with my head cut off. But I need the high stress environment to feel alive. You know what I mean? When they all just trickle in, it's just kind of like, okay, well, this one's doing well. This one's going okay. But they all just came out right at 4 o'clock. That was great. That was awesome. 119 likes on today's stream. I certainly appreciate it. You guys are amazing. My goal was to get to 100, and you guys are really pulling through. So I certainly would appreciate that. And I would appreciate it if you came back tomorrow. Come back tomorrow and join me in tomorrow's stream. We're going to be reacting to other earnings throughout the entire week. Tomorrow's going to be another big day, and you're not going to want to miss it. So actually, let me take a look and see who's actually reporting tomorrow. I believe Meta is the Meta tomorrow, or is it Thursday? I don't know. I'll let you know in just a second. So it's going to be another great stream tomorrow. But again, like I said, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. I'll be back tomorrow at 3:45 p.m. Eastern time to do it all over again. Tomorrow is Meta platforms. Meta, Roku, ServiceNow, Pioneer Teladoc, Align, United Rentals, a bunch of other smaller ones. Tomorrow morning is also going to be a big day, so we can react to some of those earnings that come out tomorrow and tomorrow afternoon stream. So Boeing's going to be a big one. That's going to, of course, impact the Dow tomorrow morning. If Boeing does well or doesn't, then we're going to see some pretty interesting move with the Dow. It's a heavy hitter in the Dow index. Humana, Hilton. This is one that I put in Stock Watch Sunday. So just to give you full disclosure, Stock Watch Sunday is an exclusive piece of content that I give to my Chaos crew over at patreon.com/ownthechaos. Hilton was on here because of the habits that the consumer has been putting forth in the overall economy. People aren't buying stuff anymore, but they're still spending money on services and travel. And so I'm really curious to see what Hilton has to say tomorrow on those earnings. So you can bet that I'll be watching that tomorrow morning. Hess, ADP, Thermo Fisher also reporting, General Dynamics pre-market. So there's going to be an exciting day tomorrow regardless, guys. I'm going to look forward to it. I hope that you are as well. And again, hit that thumbs up and on your way out the door. And I'll be back tomorrow at 3:45 p.m. Eastern time. You guys are the best. This is a great stream. See you tomorrow. Thanks so much. Have a great one. Love you all. Bye.